We will call the May 16th Board of County Commissioners meeting to order. Beth, will you call roll, please?
Barry,
Here.
Steve,
Here.
Bo,
Here.
David.
Here. We have a quorum. Will proceed. If everybody please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, consent agenda. What are the wishes, gentlemen?
Motion to approve is presented.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Motion approved. Looks like we have a public hearing. We will open the second reading of ordinance 2023-04-18, adopting the 2021 International Fire Code and each subsequent update as amended. Are there any comments on the ordinance? For a second time, any comments on ordinance 2023-04-18? Third and final time, any comments on ordinance 2023-04-18? We'll close the public hearing. And I believe we are going to need a motion.
Make a motion to approve the Williams County IFC 2023 encompassing ordinance.
Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? I'm going to assume, Bo, we're going to have to authorize the chairman to sign. Are you okay with that?
Correct, yes.
Okay, David? Okay, any discussion on that? Hearing none? Roll call?
Steve,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Motion carried. Names are getting tough this morning. Did you forget who I was? Okay, gotcha. By 8:05, you'll be awake, Beth. Department heads, looks like Lindsay, you are up.
Good morning. A couple things for you. First, the Fort Union Muzzleloaders Association was awarded a tourism grant here recently in March. But upon signing the agreement and kind of looking more through the program, they have opted to request a fiscal agent to be able to handle the funds for them and do the taxes for the grant and things like that. So this is an amended agreement that incorporates that fiscal agent, which is the Fort Union Association, that would be able to better handle the dollars for them. So just seeking approval of that amended agreement.
I would make a motion to approve the amended agreement for FUMLA and authorize the chairman to sign.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ooh, popular.
Okay, moved and second. Any discussion? Roll call?
Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
Motion carried.
So then, with regards to the University of Mary, on May the 2nd, the board approved funding their grant request, but out of a different pot of budgeted dollars to separately fund that scholarship program, and the amount of about $220,000. So today, I'm just bringing to you some basic terms that we want to make sure are settled with the board prior to drawing up the agreement and to provide them some certainty with the dollars. primarily because their grant application had anticipated starting in the fall, but they actually have 3 students enrolled in the summer semester, which started on May the 8th. So they wanted to solidify that the grant funds would be effective of May 2nd, which is when the decision was made. And this was a little bit different because it was outside the grant program. So to give them some certainty that the grant funds could be effective as of May 2nd to cover those students that enrolled in in the summer semester. And solidifying that the grant funds will follow the student through the completion of the programs that are associated with the Williston College or with the Williston campus. So that would be inclusive of the 2+2 Williston State College program, but then also other students that might enroll in the program to complete their degree. And then that would also be inclusive of the nurses program. So the business administration, business management, elementary ed, and nursing. And then the third term is primarily just the invoicing procedure in which they would provide the proof of enrollment, and they would anticipate doing it mid-semester to ensure that that student has enrolled and remained in that class for that part of it. And then, so on average, we figure this will probably cover about 30 to 40 students. But again, before we went through the motion of getting the agreement together, they needed some early certainty that this would be able to cover the summer. So if you approve the terms, amend them, change them, or whatnot, then I'll go with Karen to get the actual agreement put together. So seeking approval or amendment to these terms, and then authorization for the chairman to sign an agreement.
I'd like to make a motion approving the 3 basic terms and amend the,
Oh, authorize it.
or, and just authorize the chairman to sign, I guess. There we go.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and second. Any,
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey.
And then in your packet are all of the behavioral health agreements for the entities that were awarded on April the 18th. The grant program carried basic terms, but if an applicant was to go above and beyond what those basic terms were, which essentially was expend the money by the end of the year, then the board would need to approve what those terms were. For the most part, folks will end up spending money past that, whether because it was a year of incentives or salary or whatever the events were. So just for due diligence, all of those agreements are there included. And I think, can they do one motion to sign all of them? Okay. And Miss Karen says you can do one motion to sign all of them. Unless you want changes.
Make a motion to approve the mental health grant applications and authorize the chairman to sign.
is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? Roll call, Beth.
David, Barry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, and then the last item is with regards to the Williston State College Child Care Project. Previously, the county contributed $500,000 at the end of 2020 towards that project, but as time has gone on, costs have increased, and they're looking at raising some additional funds to be able to complete the project on time, anticipating opening up this fall. This is a project that is being run by the Williston Area Economic Development Group, of which the county and the city have been partners with. And so at this time, they have provided some financial information and in discussion with Commissioner Montgomery, seeking an authorization of an allocation of up to an additional $1.4 million to help them complete the project. This is also then stated as needed, and so therefore, if there were other grants or other financial opportunities that they may come into, that those would be utilized in lieu of these dollars, and that we would then need to work out some details of how that request system would work. So I don't have an agreement necessarily at this point, but to provide that project a little bit of certainty, this was mostly to get some clearance on the allocation of those funds.
Questions for Lindsay on that? Will we do this a little bit like, the 1% where they'll turn in receipts and then get reimbursed for it? Or, I mean, is that doable?
If that, I mean, if that is something that you think would be desirable, that's something we can work on.
I kind of like that idea because, yeah, so I guess I would like to see that.
So, I guess I have questions because there's, in this budget says extra projects, roof, East Drive entrance, playground area. I mean, the playground area and equipment makes sense, parking lot improvements. Was this all part of the plan from the very beginning? Cause it,
It was never part of the original first estimate, Bo. I think it was an add-on, but there's also a possibility that those amounts could be possibly paid by the college. We don't know yet, but that's why in talking with Lindsay and that we would include in that any other funds that come in, whether they be grants, donations, or whatever, is taken off the amount that we approved.
so the college is working on, okay.
I think Dr. Herning mentioned that when he was here 2 meetings ago, maybe, that he was gonna maybe see if there was any deferred maintenance funds that could help cover some of those, because it will remain a shared building. The diesel shop will still be using the other side of the Creighton building.
Because they also wanted to include there was new siding doing the whole building and the roof, so that's part of that also.
Okay, any other questions? What are the wishes?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve as presented by Lindsay.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second, any discussion? Roll call.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thanks.
Thanks, Lindsay. Cameron?
Good morning, Commissioners. Cameron Heimer, Development Services. Appreciate the time this morning. I wanted to give the commission a little bit of an update on the Atlas Power Data Center and kind of express my department's concerns with some of the ongoing issues out there. As you're aware, and I won't go over the whole meeting because we were there, but on May 2nd, they had appealed our decision to put a stop work order and to disconnect utilities to phase 2 of the project. The commission had set some terms and conditions allowing them to continue for 45 days. One of the conditions were that a liability waiver be signed to continue operations for those 45 days. I did reach out the same day as the meeting to FX Solutions, who is the owner of the permits, as well as Atlas Power Holdings, who owns the property, and in my understanding, the buildings. Mr. Tabish, who represents FX Solutions, was quick. He got back to me and he signed, I believe I gave you a copy of it this morning, a copy of that waiver of liability. When I had sent that same email and letter to Atlas Power and their attorney, that was on May 2nd, the same day as the meeting that afternoon, informing them that we needed that waiver signed to continue on phase 2 of the project, I did not receive a response. On that email, I may have received an auto "I'm out of the office" response, but not a response to the actual body of the email that I sent. Still had not heard anything, so on May 11th, I sent another email to their attorney and informing him that I would be updating the board at today's meeting on the status of the project, and as well as seeking to have the chairman sign that waiver as well, liability waiver. I still had heard nothing back. And so yesterday afternoon, the attorney's email that I had, and he has emailed me back once prior on that email, so I believe it's a working email. I emailed him again, as well as 2 other attorneys that in the beginning of the stop work order that we had contacts for or email addresses for, informing them of the same thing, that we were looking to have their portion of that liability waiver signed so that we can present it to the board and have the chairman sign. As of 7:45 this morning, I received no response from all three of the attorneys there. And so it is incomplete. We only have Mr. Tabish's signature, who represents FX Solutions, who does own the building permits. So as I was reviewing this and what the options are of the county, because again, that part of the 45 days to continue operations for phase 2 required that waiver of liability. I still feel that within the building code, which we have adopted and follow, that there is an authority to disconnect the service utilities. And I'm just gonna, again, briefly go over this portion of the building code, and it's section 112.3 says that the authority to disconnect service utilities. The building official shall have the authority to authorize disconnection of the utility service to the building, structure, or system regulated by this code, and the reference codes and standards in case of emergency where necessary to eliminate an immediate hazard to life or property, or where such utility connections have been made without the approval required. So it is of my opinion that they are still continuing to operate, and when I say, I should say they, with Atlas Power specifically, and they are not even complying with the conditions that the board set forth on the May 2nd meeting, that still constitutes a danger to life and safety out at the property. In addition, per building code, they never did, as you are aware, receive prior approval to power up phase 2, and they had done that anyways. It's also come to my attention as I was kind of digging further into this that we're not the county, we're not the only party that has had difficulty even reaching out or getting responses from Atlas Power. It's come to my knowledge that they also have, maybe for lack of better words, played games on even paying contractors, and it seems like they are only willing to communicate with the county if it's a last-ditch effort to go to the follow the code and to possibly cut utilities or to put a stop work order on the property. So right now, that's the major concern that I have. An update as a whole, though, putting that part aside, Mr. Tabish has been in contact with me. He still feels that he can complete 99% of the things within that 45-day time period. There's some concerns about some of the final flashing and tin. It's more cosmetic that goes on the outside of some of the buildings. It can't be to the property until about 3 weeks. So it may put him just a little behind that 45-day, but in consulting with our building official and myself, we determined that if it truly is just cosmetic, and if the state electrical engineer does sign off on the project, then we're comfortable giving a temporary certificate of occupancy until they can finish those final cosmetic issues. But Mr. Tabish had asked that was brought up to the board because he did not want it to be 2 days or so before the deadline's there, and then he's asking. So he did make me aware of that. And again, I feel that if the state is willing to sign off saying that the phase 2 buildings are safe, that's not an issue in our office to issue a temporary certificate of occupancy for the entire phase. So with that, I kind of was reviewing the options on failing to follow the terms and conditions that the board set forth on May 2nd. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. I do have some possible recommendations, but I'm more than willing to hear what the board would do, or I can.
Does anybody got any questions for Cameron?
Yeah, is there, do we require the landowner to sign off as well? If the permit holder is the one who's on the hook? Am I correct on that, or am I incorrect on that?
The permit owner holds that permit. However, we have had situations in the past where they're separate, such as this. And sometimes I guess the best way I can answer that is the permit owner, the contractor, is either fired by the owner or moved from it. We do require the owner to get a permit either in their own name or a new contractor. So they are separate, but they both would be responsible for ultimately finishing out that permit and getting a certificate of occupancy.
Okay, thank you.
And it did change ownership, just to add, because I believe originally when the property was purchased, it was under Mr. Tavish's company. However, it now is under the Atlas Power. And so I'm not sure exactly when the hands changed there, and if at that time we had required both signatures, because usually we will if there's a separate owner. But I don't know when that was done. I'd have to look at records.
So would you think that a recommendation to disconnect power by the end of the day might spur some activity?
Yeah,
If
so-
you recall, or you're saying that seems like deadlines seem to get their attention.
I would agree with that. So my recommendations would possibly be, is the board sees fit to give a timeline to have this, at a bare minimum, this liability waiver signed by Atlas, or else have the board direct Montreal Williams to have the power shut down to phase 2 until that's done. Another possibility that can be done, or separate from that, is to also issue another stop work order to halt all work on phase 2 until, again, that liability waiver is signed by Atlas Power. So those are a couple of things from my opinion that building code allows to be done in order to fulfill some of these things that need to be set forth and done. So yes, I would not disagree with your possible recommendation.
Would, could we ask for some, I don't know if you'd help or maybe some guidance or from our legislators in Bismarck, mainly the governor? I mean, he was pretty proud of this when it showed up. So maybe he could have a little bit of pull with him, to play nice, or could we? Would the board be interested in drafting a letter to the governor asking for some help?
I would tend to believe, Mr. Ramberg, that if this board decides to flip the switch to off, that it's gonna get the governor's attention through the news media, I would assume. Just my opinion. And I don't know how much help we would get from him. I'm sorry, that's just my personal opinion. It's
Well,
out of sight, out of mind, 250 miles away, so.
Well, I agree with you, David, but I thought, might be better to ask for some help ahead of time, or it would, just a thought, anyway.
Would it be, I guess I'm kind of in the middle on that, but maybe when a decision is made, and if the decision's made to shut it down, maybe that same letter needs to go to Governor Burgum's office at the same time, a CC of it, so he doesn't need to hear about it from the media. I mean, I'd just soon tell him. I don't have a problem calling. I'm guessing he won't take my call, but I would call and tell him what was going on if they had a question, but I would say send it right to him also.
Do we have a faster method of communication other than sending a letter to the governor?
Well, I think it's gonna have to be an email, because this is gonna all go email.
Yeah. Because I agree. I think we should. It was a big announcement. It was a big potential investment, and so yeah.
There wouldn't happen to be somebody from Atlas online or something, is there? Or
Possibly, but again, they will not respond to me, so I
more of a question for?
There's nobody on.
Oh.
I just got the
requested
no, there's nothing on.
So my concern, I mean, I drove up there on Friday around lunchtime, during the rain, and there was workers in those open buildings, and the fan, all that stuff is still running. So I don't know. I mean, one, if there was a life lost, it would be awful. Two, if they haven't signed this, that tells me that they want us to be part of the problem. So, in my opinion, my motion is that they have until 5 o'clock today, and if there is no communication from them by 5 o'clock, Montreal Williams shuts them down, phase 2.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Just a question, if I may, or we originally gave them 45 days. I guess, is there a way that we can put in that motion, Bo, that the delay that it's gonna take, let's say if this shutdown is 5-10 days, that those days are not taken away from the original 45 day to have it completed? You follow what I'm saying? They still have to have it completed by the original date
And
that we
deadline.
set,
Yeah,
and,
I mean,
and not giving them another 5-10 days.
Except we aren't really shutting down. They can still work. We're
Oh,
just
I-
shutting off the
oh,
power,
we're
so
shutting the
they
power
can't
down.
make, yeah, but they can still work.
Well-
Although we need to add time, but in my opinion.
In today's legal world, I guess I'm trying to eliminate the fact that we're not gonna add another 5, 10, 15 days on to the end, I guess is my point, because we shut the power off.
No, I think everything stays the same.
Don't add days to the end or do? Oh, well, then we're in agreement. I'm arguing with you to say the same thing. I'm sorry. I just like to argue with you, I guess.
I guess the only negotiation would be that maybe we're serious, that on phase 2, that they start building by building. Today, it's the 2 buildings by the road. You know, tomorrow it's the next set of buildings in phase, until if they continue to ignore it, they all get shut off. But just a thought, or we just shut them all off. That's up to you guys. Just part for discussion.
Well, and I believe your motion is shut off phase 2. Shut off, I mean, yeah, I don't know how easy that would be for Montreal Williams. I think it's gonna be phase 1 or phase 2. And this one we're talking about is phase 2 to shut down.
And phase 1 is operating legal, and they're able to generate income.
Correct.
Okay, so, I mean, from what I've gathered, these things are making oodles and oodles of money. I was basically told that the $4,000 a day fine was kind of a drop in the bucket. They don't care. But I also concerned, one, that they're not going to pay it anyway. But I don't know. They've had opportunity to work with us, and they're already proving they don't want to, other than Mr. Tavish.
Yes, Helen?
I just want to make sure everyone's on the same page because I'm in the back, not making a decision. The motion is to have communication by 5. So not a signed waiver.
Signed by 5 is what I understood. Then it's shut off tomorrow morning.
Yeah,
If
my
it's not
intention
signed.
is a by 5 o'clock signed waiver, or they get shut off.
In the morning?
Montreal Williams isn't gonna be there after 5.
Right,
So
so
it'll
then
be
what I-
tomorrow morning, shut off.
If it's not signed before 8 a.m., before Montreal can get there to shut it off. If they can get it there the last second, I guess maybe that's a clarifying point. We can say by the time it gets shut off, well, as soon as they can.
You good with that, Bo?
If I can just add for the record, for the language, that the board asked specifically that to direct Montreal Williams to shut power off.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? Beth, let's do a roll call.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes,
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
motion carried. Thanks, Cameron.
Thank you.
Looks like finance is up.
Good morning. We have about $3.4 million of ARPA funds still on the books that we need to spend. Sooner the better. Dennis and I have reviewed county highway projects, and we've determined that project number 17217A for County Road 42, which had a bid of $3.8 million, would be the best place to apply that award. I'm looking for your permission to apply those ARPA funds to that project.
I would, excuse me, I would make that motion that we spend the ARPA funds on County 42.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David, Barry,
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christie. Dennis, you awake over there? You look pretty comfortable.
Okay, we just talked about projects. We need authorization for chairman to sign the contracts for County 42, County 12, and the countywide striping.
I would make the motion to have the chairman sign.
I'll second.
Moving second, any discussion? Roll call.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey.
Yes. Motion carried.
Okay, and frost laws went off yesterday, and you have a frost law grant committee and frost laws to, what would the board like to do with that this year?
I believe we had discussed that, and I think if I'm right, we approved it, that we were going to just divide up the frost law money and give it out to the townships. Divide it up equally, and did we not have that discussion? So that's all approved, so we don't even need to meet on it.
I think we just have to decide the amount, correct?
Sure.
Well, isn't the amount
Well-
what came in on frost laws? I mean, it's the,
We had typically in the past, I think we've held back like, cause what's in that fund currently? Cause we typically held back like, was it 5 or 700,000 or something, just for in the future in case, something bad happened and somebody needed a culvert or a bridge or, something like that, but.
I'm showing as of yesterday, there was 552,000 frost permits sold. So after we booked all that money, you'll have $1.1 million, 1,174,183.14.
well, it sounds to me like we just take what came in this year, and we'll keep the other as the carryover and divide that up. And I think we included the unorganized also, is what we had talked about. So,
Correct. I think Karen, I think you need a motion to do it that way this year is what we had discussed it as a group
okay.
and then
Okay, I thought we had
brought
made a
it back
motion, but that's
for
fine. Yeah, okay, I get
for
what you're
a
saying.
motion to do it how you so choose.
Does that make sense? Does everybody remember the conversation? So really, we're just looking for a motion to allow it to be divided up among all the townships, and then they can do as they seem fit for their township, because everybody's a little different.
And is that the total 1,174,183?
No, what came in this year, 552,000. And then we'll keep the other in as the emergency.
In the past, if the townships hadn't spent their money by a certain time, it reverts back, right?
Correct.
And this would still be
Correct,
the
sorry.
same?
Correct.
This would still be the same? I mean,
No, we're sending this to their township, and we're really gonna I guess we could put something in, David, if we really wanted to, but that's gonna become a tracking issue, and I think,
no, I understand that, but then on the other hand, we're giving them a blank check, I guess, so to speak, and they can do what they want, when they want. If they don't, they don't. Is that what you're saying?
absolutely, because maybe there's some of them that have a bigger project that wanna save it for a year and try to build it up a little bit, and, maybe they've got a bigger project they need to do. I don't know, we're just trying to open it up and let them kind of decide more. For a long time, we did grants for it, and then we'd said, well, we're pushing the dust control, and then we were pushing this, and then this way, if they have something different that they want, go for it. Obviously, it's got to fall within what a township can do.
Perspective, it's about $10,000.
We're not talking a huge amount of money per. They can send us their blading bill right away, and it's gonna cover, for the,
We're looking for a motion to approve the $552,000 prorated out equally amongst the 53 townships. That would make that motion.
okay, is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. I guess we have discussion coming down the aisle.
Sorry, we just want to make sure the vision is that the money is just going to get distributed out to the townships and they have the freedom to do what
Correct.
they want. Okay, you just mentioned a bill, so we wanted to make sure there wasn't.
No, what I'm saying is, I was answering David's question. All they gotta do is send one of their first bills if we needed it, which would be just a nightmare to keep track of, in my opinion, so. Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Do you have to put the number of townships in the motion? Because remember, Dry Fork and unorganized blended?
Wouldn't all cover, the word all, wouldn't that cover it?
I was, you know.
Yep.
I would amend the motion to include all townships, not.
Okay. Who seconded that?
I did. I'm good with that.
You're good with that? Thanks, Steve. We've gone a long ways down the rabbit hole here. Is there any other discussion? Let's have a roll call before we get back in the hole.
David? Barry?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes,
Bo?
Yes.
motion carried. Thanks, Dennis.
Just out of curiosity, is there any of these grants that are left over from years past in any township? Have they all expended their money?
No, that was all ended in December of 22. December of 22. It all,
So those funds that they had not used went back into this account?
You did have that school and township fund, Fund 421, that had some township grants that also lapsed. So that's another option. You could add that money into your township fund, into your frost law.
What's the amount on that?
$546,414. Unless you want to wait till budget time to talk about what to.
No, I was just curious, but, so, thank you.
Okay, did I miss any department heads? All right, Helen.
All right, you have in front of you the open position report. We have a sheriff's deputy in the sheriff's office that we'll be filling in the coming months. This is actually a retirement of a longtime employee, and so we got lots of notice, and we're going to work our way through that. Just to be clear, we have a couple of licensed licensed peace officers who work security, and so this is one of those positions. Youth Assessment Center has had a resignation, so we have a youth care attendant. And then added to the list, not printed, but added yesterday, we do have a heavy equipment operator position at County Highway. So I'm looking for permission to fill those three.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Barry?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes,
Bo?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
motion carried.
All right, we have another position-related item, which I didn't list on the sheet, but is, I guess I am going to ask for a motion to approve it, but it is really an update for you all. We've talked some in the past about doing a little bit of reorganization in the state's attorney's office in terms of the licensed, non-attorney staff. We knew we had some retirements coming, and we do have one of those happening kind of right now. And so we are in the midst of analyzing duties and doing a bit of reorging. And so the result of that will be that we are going to create or shuffle out of all of the work an office administrator position that will be really that sort of right hand to the state's attorney, overseeing and administering the non-courtroom related work, let's call it, that goes on in the state's attorney's office. And we do have an internal person who's been doing some of that work and will continue to do it with a different title. And then we're going to shuffle some work around. And so it is my obligation to all of you, if we make any kind of I would call it a significant change in terms of staffing or positioning, to bring it before this board for approval. I don't see that there will be an impact on budget this year because we do have an open assistant state's attorney position. But going forward, as we see how this shakes out and just how many positions we end up with and where their compensation is, we might see a little bit of a difference in coming years. So for your consideration and approval, if you would.
Does anybody have any questions?
I would make a motion to approve the position as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Motion carried.
And then ahead of schedule, I'm able to ask you to reappoint Christy Gutierrez to the Joint Library Board. She was our only applicant for this opening, and we received informal agreement from the board prior to the closing of the position. And so, having no other candidates, we're able to have you appoint Christy today.
I'd make a motion to approve Christie's term of 6/10/23 through 6/9/26.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we will close the meeting.